hello everyone over on YouTube as well. Hello Math, Arachnia Sparta, it's great to see both of you. Space Nerd, hello, welcome on in. How's everyone doing today? Are we all staying comfy and cozy? Cause it is like 40-mile-an-hour winds and blistering tiny snowflakes outside, so we are going maximum comf. Because we need all of the indoor comfiness we can get when the outdoors is like this. Fireworks on the 28th? Like, if it was Wednesday, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But on the 28th? Weird. Anyway, glad to be home after a friend's baby shower. Well, that's delightful. But also, congrats on surviving and being back indoors. Oh. Oh, it's just fireworks all the time. Gotcha. I understand. Darth Tiger, hello. Welcome on in. KJ, hey, how you doing, friend? Hopefully you guys don't get what we're getting over here, and especially up in Minnesota. Minnesota looks bad right now. Down here, we're just getting a little bit of a lot of wind and just a little bit of snow. So, hopefully that front doesn't, and all that cold and blasting snow doesn't roll its way over the lakes. Ooh! It was raining so hard that people were pulled off the side of the highway. Ooh. Well, that's not great. 50 now, 20 tomorrow, so all that rain's going to turn into snow and ice overnight. You don't need to drive anywhere Monday morning, right? Yeah, good. Good. It's true. We're getting the same whimdy that got the Gave the Balkan. May it rest in peace. I've been seeing people Family Guy death posing the Gave Goat, and it's very funny. Yep, good luck. That's all I can say. Because you go get out of Lake Effect and get back into Lake Effect. And, yeah, just GG's. Go next. I believe in you. So, how are we all doing today? We are going to be doing our annual History Games tier list for 2025. Instead of a regular history hour, I've went through and I uncovered exactly what we played, which lots of things I had totally forgot about, a couple things I'd forgotten about on purpose. Raptorus, you know what you did. And so we're actually going to do two tier lists. Hey, Misty Step. We are going to do our usual one, which is how good of a historical game was it? Try and rewind, recap, think about it, and remember what the heck we were up to. Then, we're also going to do just how was it as a game? Because those two can often be quite far apart. Right? So, instead of one tier list, we're going to have two tier lists. That way no one can get mad at me. Well, people can get mad at me about having bad takes about Silksong, but not for saying Silksong is not a historical game. Because obviously it's not a historical game. So, we're also live over on YouTube so that all of this gets like put in, up, present, and there immediately. But this will be a separate VOD, so if you're on the YouTube side of things, just as a heads up, we'll be watching, I'll be bringing down the YouTube stream, and then I'll be starting a new YouTube stream for Once Upon a Katamari afterwards. So, if that sounds like a plan, there's also a good chance to laugh at all the games that or to remind me of all the games that I didn't play this year. So I've pulled up a few that I know we'd be incorrect about to not include. Heck yeah! I want to thank you for introducing me to Chance of Sennar and Pentiment, even though you didn't watch the streams of those. Well, both of those games rule. So, I'm glad I can be the connoisseur of, indie-ish good time, good puzzle, games. So, fill up on drinks, get comfy, get cozy, and without further ado, let's hop on in. Woohoo! Next you're gonna get Silence of Blake Manor. I see, I'm just like a drug dealer over here, funneling you new indie games. Yep. Nope, that's correct. I accept my role in life. So, the rules for this tier list are that we had to have streamed it in 2025. This actually means that we have just a smidge of overlap with last year's tier list, namely Metaphor Re Fantasio. We finished it in January. Like, it actually took us all the way into January, and technically Indiana Jones and The Great Circle we finished in the very first stream of 2025. But therefore it counts. YouTube people, I'm so sorry that you will never get to see the glory that was the Metaphor Re Fantasio game. But, I mean, that was just... Dr. Henry Jones and the massive... It's not even an oval, it's more like a squiggle. The massive, somewhat squiggly oval. It was good fun. But, if you don't remember anything about Metaphor Re Fantasio, it's by the Persona team. But it's not a Persona game, which made it significantly less time-consuming. But also... True. In Dr. Henry Jones and the Wiggly Hula Hoop. Incredible. Anyway. Metaphor had two things that really kind of appealed to me for it. Which is, one, the fact that right from the word go, it was really interested in what is the value of fantasy and fairy stories, which is something that overlaps really heavily with the fields of folkloristics. So, right, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote one of the most passionate defenses of fairy tales you could possibly ask for, back in the 1930s. So, you know, immediately was like, hey, ooh, they're doing some interesting things here that I feel like they then failed to particularly well execute on. And then two, spot the Bosch, most of the humans in the game were directly taken from the paintings of Hieronymus Bosch, particularly the Garden of Earthly Delights and Last Judgment. So, pretty much every time they rocked up, there was some history to talk about there, usually about Bosch, but there were a couple of ones that were pulling from different artistic things. There was the one boss in the desert that had ancient hominid hand paintings all over it. And so that, right, there was enough of a pile of real-world references absolutely occurring in there that it was like, yeah, it's a fantasy game, but hear me out. I just... Please hold. There we go. I felt like the game kind of teetered a bit in its third act, in that the answers it actually came up with for why everything was going on was actually overall less interesting than the answers I had had in my head. But you know, that is a fairly small critique, all things considered. So, I had a great time with it. Hear me out. I think there's a lot of at least historiography and value for folkloristics to pull from that, as well as some fun trivia. If you just want to go like, ooh, ooh, look at it. Look at it. Next up. Oh, and we will tier them all again in a regular tier list. Yes. KJ, that is exactly that game. Next up for what we played was Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Which those VODs, by the way, if you're like, oh, I'm so sad I missed some of that, those VODs are going up next week. There are 12 of them. It'll take a bit. Well, no, 13 of them. So, don't worry. If you wanted to see it and see all of that, soon. Relive those moments. Look, Tedness, on the one hand, fair. On the other hand, it's so heavily foreshadowed, it barely counts as a spoilers. Like, I had that one hard read about 5 hours into the game. So, do with that what you will. Wait, where did... Is Once Upon a Katamari a history game? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We are literally... We travel to Edo, Japan. The, Wild West. The Jurassic period. The 18th century, or the Age of Pirates, and Ancient Greece. And so it's more of a, ooh, look at that thing. Ooh, look at that thing. That being said, it seems to have escaped... We'll do it that way. We'll add it there. There we go. So... Yes. Anyway, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We're a long ways away from Once Upon a Katamari. I'm going to call this one a fantastic history game, right? If you know me, you know I was worried about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Because I was not super impressed with Kingdom Come Deliverance. I found that a lot of the things that they were really focused on, like, really weren't things that I found very interesting, weren't things that actually added to the historical setting in a useful way. And in fact, they were kind of fundamentally really missing important things about the setting. Like, for instance, the fact that all of the saints in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 were Kickstarter backers. Despite being set during a period of religiously motivated conflict. It also had big problems with, diversity and the way that they were justifying their kind of one-note portrayal of the Cumans, their barely more than one-note portrayal of Hungarians, and the complete absence of anyone from farther afield. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 fixed a pretty overwhelming majority of those problems. Like, there's a lot to like about it, And while we never got around to meeting Musa, he basically, from what I've read and seen, basically was exactly the solution that I pitched during Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 to this problem. In Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, I pitched that you could have a Iberian, right? So North African, right? Let's say either Amazigh or even from Mali, went to Morocco, went over into Muslim Andalusia, was hired as a mercenary by Sigismund of Hungary, and then joined his army, and then deserted. Guess what they did? They also had Romani rap. They also had way more nuanced Kuman and Kipchak rap. They also generally let Henry be like more, I guess, less weird and more of an adult. And all of those are good things. And we get to meet Jan Žižka, which is just fun. And Kuyenberg looked incredible. There was so much to like about Kuyenberg. Now, oh, and their economy is less scuffed. Their economy was way less scuffed in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 than it is in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Now, I think a lot of their framework is still actually still very superficial, right? Their historical accuracy. It no longer takes a week's worth of wages to buy a pretzel. The pretzels were they were still too expensive, but they were close to affordable. God, I will never forgive Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 for being like, hey, what if a pretzel cost a week's worth of wages? Hilarious, no notes. But yeah, so they fixed a lot of their problems going into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. There still are things I don't like. I still find their kind of social hierarchy and the ways it's done by performance still sometimes doesn't work. I still think, right, if you look too seriously at what NPCs are actually doing, a lot of things fall apart. I think the idea that our master strokes, right, master strikes for a longsword being this rare, obscure, impossible to defeat technique when it's literally just your basic cuts. Very, very funny. The fact that everyone still fights like a HEMA trained fighter, mostly, still very, very weird. But there was so much more to like in KCD 2 than there was in KCD 1. And yeah, I think it's a fantastic history game. Next up, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh, several queer couples in KCD 2. Now, I'm kind of torn with AC Shadows, right? There was a lot that I think was actually really good about AC Shadows, but the lows in that game were really quite low. Right? When things were not. On the one hand, in some ways, I think this is the most detailed depiction of Sengoku Japan culturally that we are likely to get in a long time. Can we make the tier list bigger? There's a bunch of blank space on the screen. Yeah, we can certainly. I got you. I didn't lose my mind as much with Valhalla. I also know less. Right? That's the part that makes it hard to judge. Is hey, how much of the apparent improvement in this game is that they did the history better, and how much of it is I don't know enough to know when they got it wrong. And that's always the danger, right? Like when I play something that I just like am fully actually trained expertise on, it's like, oh no, don't do this to me. Why are you doing this to me? This is so pain. Why would you do this to me? So this is not that. But I don't know if that's just because I'm not an expert. That being said, right, Assassin's Creed plots kind of have one of two formats. Format one is that the protagonist is basically irrelevant because history, they are kind of playing themselves so constrained by historical events that they really have to shoe in why and how the protagonist fits in. Assassin's Creed 2 is a great example of this. The other options are basically saying, screw the history, and the plot is literally unrelated to the historical events that the game covers, but the rest of the world is really good. That's the Mirage version. Shadows was somewhere in the middle. Right? Like, the whole plot of Assassin's Creed Shadows takes place actually in real life history, takes place in the span of about 6 weeks. And yet, in the game, it took us about 3 years of just season rotations. Tehedness, there were Templars. They were Portuguese traders, like they're supposed to be. They did manage to not fall into the trap of making the Imperial Regalia Apples of Eden. They specifically said, hey, they're not. Unless it's the Claws of Awaji DLC wreck on anything. I didn't play it, so I don't actually know. Right? So I do think there's overall, I think, though, the the attention to detail in the state of the world with theater, tea ceremonies, music, puppetry, poetry, a lot of those things overall make up for the weaknesses of the game. And the character writing in the game is actually really, really solid. So I think that's enough for me to bump it up into here. But understand that it is like barely creeping into this tier. Barely making it. I don't know off the top of my head this dude. But right, in the game, it's the slavers that kidnapped Yasuke and eventually put him under Alessandro as a enslaved servant to Alessandro, what's his name? The main Portuguese missionary in Japan while Oda Nobunaga was alive. So, Would there be value to a tier in between? Like, I mean, I could just keep adding tiers. But at some point, that's just like one game per tier. So I don't think so. I think just understanding that it's on the low end of like a really fantastic worth your time one is sufficient. All right. After that had been South of Midnight in our What Did We Actually Play When? Now, I freaking loved South of Midnight. South of Midnight was so much fun. I had such a good time with it. But I really don't know where to rank it. I'm tempted to say Hear Me Out. Because it's like, its primary setting is historical in that it's like the late 90s. But its groundedness in sort of this folkloric world space was just really, really fun, really, really worth the time. And there were some actual genuine folk. There were some invented traditions, but there were also some genuine ones. So, like, Two Toed Tom is like an actual Louisiana guy. Local Louisiana spoop. The genuine article. And so, yeah. The mechanics were kind of mid. The combat was kind of mid. The traversal mechanics were super fun. It has the vibes, right? I mean, gosh, yesterday we talked a bunch in the history hour about the value, even if you're just taking a swing, right? If it doesn't matter whether the source material and the setting of your story are actually the same thing, but the value of that internal coherence, I think, is on full display in South of Midnight. Because its actual thing is kind of just long enough ago that you can't use the internet to solve problems. Right? That's really what this is. Just long enough ago that you can't use the internet to solve your problems. And after that, right, they just stack up the layers of history and folklore underneath that point. Pretty damn well. And because they've really kind of picked that setting and then understood how the mythic past projects itself into it, even though it's hard to really say what year this is. Well, I think we settled on what, like, somewhere between 1995 and 2004? The vibes hold together immaculately. And so it ends up feeling like a super duper rich, super duper historical world. Even though it's fully a fiction that's drawing on over 1,000-mile radius circle of available folkloric space. You also get an absolute freaking banger of a song with the Rougarou. And like, let me the songs, the boss fight songs in this game were so good. Like literally, even if you bounce off the game because the mechanics are so good, buy this soundtrack. The soundtrack is literally worth the asking price of the game. So it was awesome. I had a great time. Now, next up for our true historical games tier list was The Veil, Shadow of the Crown. this one is an interesting premise, right? So this is, hey, you are a minor noble person's daughter. You are born completely blind. And so we're going through this this kind of very stock fantasy story, except that you are blind. And so you just have little sparkles of color for different sounds, and that's kind of it. It was super duper interesting, but I found that the story was incredibly formulaic. Um, it's half visual novel and half a combat timing puzzle. Right, there's a lot of combat in this game, which involves everyone else in this world being not just bad, but genuinely atrocious at not telegraphing their attacks. Which, you know, on the one hand, fair enough. On the other hand, come on. Right? I think where I really started to lose interest in the game was when the plot took a turn that basically said, what if blind people were magical? And it's like, okay, fine. Nice empowerment you got there. But hear me out. What if they didn't need to be? Like, what if this could... Exactly. Magic disabilities are a dangerous path to tread. But yeah, no, like, because there was one other, blind old lady who was also a magic user. Uh, it's not amazing. I did not love it. Uh, and so, it basically, right, leaning into what is effectively a super duper stock, um, fantasy story, right? Oh, princess is sent off to a distant border castle that is believed to be safe. When they're almost there, gets waylaid by an invading army. Has to make her way back home, trying to stay ahead of and uncaptured by said army. Assembles a ragtag group of allies and discovers she has magic powers. Gets back to the castle at the very end, and manages to save the day. Super standard. Making the protagonist blind did not remove the issues with this. And so instead of getting any sort of exploration in how, you know, a pre-modern world deals with disability and visual impairment, it basically becomes a everyone gets sandbagged so that the protagonist is allowed to shine. And so I found that the idea of kind of breaking that comfort, right? Of saying, hey, disability existed in pre-modernity. Here's how people might have dealt with it. Super valuable. But the execution wound up fumbling itself fairly significantly for me. After that, we play Chrono Trigger. Look, I can't. Chrono Trigger is a historical game insofar as it was released 30 years ago. Oh boy. Chad, the linear passage of time got me. Give me a sec. I did the math and I didn't like the number it came out to. Okay. Chrono Trigger was released 30 years ago, and therefore, right, is one of those games that is itself kind of an interesting historical artifact in the history of video game narrative. It's a phenomenal game. I love it to pieces. I will recommend it wholeheartedly to everyone every time. It's a time travel JRPG. But its conception of different things is so loosey-goosey that you really have to work at it to find the things to pull out, you know? You have to really... We found things. They weren't good things, but we found things. It just took us some doing. And so I really can't even put this in Hear Me Out. Because it's so far removed that I can't. I just can't. And that's okay. Next up on our list, let's make sure I'm staying in order. Oh, I actually forgot a couple. I actually broke our order a little bit. So next up on our list, actually, it needs to be 2 Point Museum. Now, 2 Point Museum is pretty easy. Here's a lighthearted comedy RTS, where you are in charge of a museum, and you have to build exhibits and make people do stuff and create something compelling. Now, I'm a museum curator as my day job, so it's like, hey, this is... Hi, I've been targeted. Hello, yes. I see you. I've been targeted. Oh no, it's me. And so we played it for a couple times, a couple streams, and we had a good time with it. But also then pretty quickly went, Okie doke. Well, that was fun. And off to bed, never came back. I think that's, there's a couple reasons for that. Thing one, it leaned a lot into different level gimmicks as the, how do you create something compelling? Well, you gimmick it, right? Your haunted house museum versus your natural history museum versus your zoo versus your whatever, right? All have big gimmicks. Thing two, they rely heavily on the expedition. The idea that a curator is going out in the field doing field work and the museum claims the thing, and they bring it back in and you're putting it on view immediately. Like, it is generously put an outdated conception of how the majority of museum work goes these days. That was how it worked in the 20s. That's not so much how it works in the 2020s. And third, like, you didn't have to actually create any, like, interpretation or scenography or something like that. It didn't reward you for having a large collection from which you can craft an experience. And that is the point of the work. And so there just wasn't enough sauce for it. It's fun enough, but I found it to kind of be a very sauceless historical game. And therefore it goes in the seriously flawed category. Okay, next up. Another one whose VOD is going up this week. The Case of the Golden Idol. This one was an interesting game. I had a really fun time with it. Like, I had a really, really fun time with this game. But I'm hard-pressed, like, there's so few things in here that actually matter that it was 18th century. Pentiment is amazing. Shame is kind of small in terms of choice and has one ending. Athelfrith, there's a reason why right, instead of having an S tier for our how good of a history game is it, that it is the top of our list. Because it is, I think, the best historical game that has ever been created. It's that good. It's 2022. It's already 3 years old. And yeah, right, I should say, this is everything we played in 2025. This is not everything that, this is not things that released in 2025. Though, there are a few 2025 releases that we're just gonna, actually, while you reminded me of it, we're just gonna put Anno 117, Europa Universalis 5, and Civilization 7 all in the Grand Strategy tier. Also known as I didn't play them. We can talk about them at the end to see how we liked them. But, yeah. Y'all don't actually like seeing Grand Strategy games on this channel because I don't have fun playing them, and the thing I've consistently heard is that if I'm not having fun, you're not having fun. And I hear you, I respect that, and so even though these are history games that we cannot possibly ignore, I didn't play them. And so I can't tell you how they were. So at the end, we'll see if anyone in chat has played them, and if there's things to be said that are interesting. But yeah, so, to cycle back up here, the Pentiment tier is reserved for games that so deeply capture the concerns and anxieties and emotional experience of a setting. And it has to be an actual historical setting. Oh yeah, no, Rosenkreuz is great. He and I are buds. Like, we've worked together on a couple of things. And absolute delight. Fully recommend. If you're more of a Twitch person, General Stee, I know has been doing quite a bit of Anno 117. So, exactly. Yep, Twitch is way more alive and happening. Hey, good to see you over here too. So, right, so I think last year, let's see, do I have last year's tier list still up and present and around and good? I did not save it. This is so sad. I did save 2023's though. I put Stray Gods and God of War Ragnarok up in the Pentiment tier, and that was about it. And in 2024 we put the Thaumaturge up there, because the Thaumaturge ruled so frickin' much. This year, I'll be honest, I don't think... No, that's not true. There is one game that's going to end up in Pentiment tier in my mind. Remember God of War Ragnarok was a game that we had a bunch of friends who are experts in Norse religion do all sorts of stuff. And having all my friends on, right, Dr. Felix Lummer, Dr. Katie Beard, Dr. Declan Tigert, all those folks actually on interviewing them, and getting to have them react to the game, actually right, showcased exactly how much depth and concern the team had putting into it, and that there was a lot of sauce there. So even though they were making changes, they were doing those changes in a very particular on-purpose way that engaged very closely with the state of academic knowledge, and that's awesome. And Alpha, yeah, I did beat Golden Idol in one stream with no help. Well, I think chat gave me help on one thing, but no YouTube videos, no random things. I haven't actually 100%ed Obra. There were a couple parts of Obra that I did need, yeah. Yeah. So we'll let that be. We'll let that be. So, where were we? Right, Golden Idol. It's... Case of the Golden Idol is nominally set in the 18th century, and there is a handful of things... we'll bump it up. Actually, I think, as I'm thinking through it, there's just enough things, with globalization, right, with European colonial attitudes, and with the self-destructive obsession with the kind of universal control that I think bumps it up. But it also doesn't engage... A lot of that is very aesthetic. Especially as the game goes on. In a lot of ways, it feels a lot more like a Robert Louis Stevenson novel, and an adaptation of that a lot more than it feels like an adaptation of anything actually from the 18th century. Right? And by the way, I'm not thinking Treasure Island, though Treasure Island is one. I'm actually thinking, is it The Castaway? It's not Castaway. Heck. Kidnapped. Kidnapped is the one I am thinking of. Crusoe is 18th century and it's Daniel Defoe. Not Robert Louis Stevenson. But also a decent shadow. But right, Kidnapped has the protagonist kind of get captured, shipwrecked, stranded in Scotland, wandering around, forced into highwaymanship, etc., etc. And so some of the same tropes we see in the mid-game of Golden Idol are showing up in Kidnapped. Some of the tropes in Treasure Island always show up in the early game of Golden Idol, and then the late game of Golden Idol is just weird and wacky shenanigans. Right. Oh, Crusoe's I haven't read it in a very long time, but yeah, it's like 500 pages. It's a beefy boy. Also, I don't like Daniel Defoe very much, so, you know, that's fine. Anyway. So yeah, we'll bump that up there, because I think it's another one of these where you have to kind of work at it to pull the historical information out. And I wish it was a little... I wish the fact that it was 18th century mattered a bit more, but a lot of the tropes it's pulling on have a very deep literary history. And I think ultimately it's commentary on the social destructiveness of the colonial mindset of universal control. Is extremely historically pertinent. And so that's fun. Now, Raptorus is still not here, which means I cannot shout out Raptorus for doing this to me. But it was around June. Man, that we got inflicted. Sonic and the Black Knight, released on the Wii. Patreon suggestions. Hey, chat, did you know that for just 25 bucks a month, you too can make me play your favorite historical games? We have a couple in the queue. We're getting close. Math, we're so close. Literally, I think we're just Ghost of Yotei in between. We're a PowerPoint presentation and a Ghost of Yotei ahead of Fate Samurai Remnant. I've not forgotten. Don't worry. And when it comes out, Golden Deer Inn, a game that is actually animated but via embroidery, is on that list too. So. Depends on the game, Athelfrith. So, I'll spoil it. Neo 2, I played on PlayStation. Because the PC version was bugged. Like, fully corrupt, the audio files were totally corrupted on install, and so it had no sound. Generally, I'll play on PC, though, unless if it's, super duper duper beefy, and then I need to save resources on my PC for the stream. Right? My PC is pretty damn beefy. It's for the most part going to be fine, but if it is a game that I know is going to be super graphically intensive, I will sometimes offload that to my PS5, so that way my PC just has to handle the capture and stream rendering. I would just distribute that workload across 2 GPUs. But yeah, generally PC. So yeah, I can't even, like, Sonic and the Black Knight was fun. Well, it was fun to watch, I think. It was certainly a game to play. It was certainly a fascinating game to play via Nintendo PC. And, yeah. Past that, I really don't know what to say about it. Technically, there were Arthurian characters. Technically, there were some truly wild swings in the weapon. Yeah. Emulator. I'm thinking about buying like a 700 or 800 euro GPU or a PS5 because you're moving to another city next year for an archaeology master's. Hey, congratulations on getting into a master's program in archaeology. That's awesome. But yeah, I would probably recommend a console, right? Unless if you have a reason why you really wanted to be on PC, like, you know, if you're playing a bunch of League, one, God bless your soul, and two, you probably want a PC for that, right? But if games that need lots of keyboard controls are your thing, is that, but otherwise I think a PS5 in that particular situation is both cheaper, like marginally cheaper, and yeah, lets you be social more. And I'm big in social, like finding ways to be social while gaming. And being social IRL these days, I feels really, really important. And so, you know, if you've got a PS5 and someone else has a Switch or a Switch 2, that gets all your like party gaming out of the way for a lot of fun, very silly stuff. And that's good. Oh yeah, Wolfie. The reason why we were talking about that is so we got to Slack on the Black Knight in the tier list, and that was a Patreon game. And I do recognize the I was saying that I did not forget what Patreon requested games are still on the docket. I have not forgotten, and I am not going to abandon that promise. But the game isn't out yet, so you know. Here we are. Okay. Next up, another one. The VODs are going up this week. Literally tomorrow, the first VOD for this goes up. So Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream. So, hear me out. Yes, it is technically set in a fictional world. On the other hand, this is one of the least subtle fictional worlds I think I've ever seen. Oh no, we're in Malmö at the turn of the 20th century. Or Uppsala, or like pick your Swedish fishing town. There's no subtlety to it, and I love that for it very much. This one was just a real treat to play. It's got a really well told story. The stealth mechanics are pretty darn fun, and yeah, there were so many advertisements. There were so many, and they were so good, and they were so poisonous. There were so many advertisements for things that will just kill you. As is the true Victorian way. Titanfall multiplayer still exists? Wild. Yeah, even so. I'm amazed it still is, like, alive. Because, I mean, good god, look at the franchise that got done so dirty. Titanfall 2 was so fun. And, I doubt we'll ever see a Titanfall 3, because, rip. I could make Titanfall 3. Or I could, print money using Apex Legends. So sad. Anyway, it has a surprising amount of people online. I love that for it. Like, I assumed it was basically dead, like, 4 years ago. To hear that it's still going is awesome. And thank you, Athelfrith, for the follow. I do super appreciate it. Okay. Yeah. So, Eric's Home Stolen Dream, like, highly recommend. I think it did its escalation of stakes really, really well. I loved the architecture. I loved the advertising culture. I loved the general world state where there's a lot of anxieties around health, the decline of traditional industry, mining safety, lack of work, and then a broader geopolitical anxiety about thinly veiled Russia that was justified in 1901 and is proving itself to still be very justified in 2025. Oops. Subtle this game isn't, but man, was it effective. I had a great time with it, so putting it up here, even if it's not technically historical. We're a few days past Catholic Christmas. 25th. And so it was last week. Okay, where are we? Eric's home. Oh, Nioh 2 is next. Schmack in the middle of the 12 days. Are we on... We're 7 birds deep? Nope, that's not true. We're more than 7 birds deep. We're 9 birds deep. Can I not count? 4, 3, 2, 1. I super can't count. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. I don't know. I'm a historian, not a mathematician. We are 10 birds deep. We have so many birds left to go. Our friends are gonna hate us by the time we're done giving them all of these birds. Especially since these aren't like nice birds. Right? We're mockingbirds who are annoying as hell. We got turtle doves, which look pretty, but also are dumb as box of bricks, and will poop everywhere. And the partridge and the pear tree. The pear tree is the real, the pear tree is the real winner here. The partridge is just kind of a bonus. The 3 hens is quite nice. Okay. Anyway, where were we? Nioh 2. I'm going to put Nioh 2 here. Like, Nioh 2 is a weird one. Because on the one hand, I thoroughly enjoyed seeing all of the different spooks and dudes. All the different spoops. There were so many, and Scampus was so round. And yet, it basically assumes you already know the entire history in order for the plot to make literally any sense. Like, I've not seen that in a historical game before. It is a historical game where you just already need to know who everybody is, what they do, and how they die in order for the game's story to make sense. As an example, Takeda Shingen gets introduced and dies in the intro descriptions to optional missions. And it's like, bro, it's Takeda Shingen. He's like the number 2 dude. And then you beat up his revenant. Right? So he shows up in a intro description to a side mission. He dies in the intro text to the next side mission. And then you beat up his ghost. And that is the extent to the presence of Takeda Shingen in the Sengoku Jidai at Nioh 2. And I'm like, how? Genuinely, what? And so, well, there's a lot of fun visual depth. And the all the different sort of spirits and yokai is just something you like. Assassin's Creed Shadows was very ambiguous, trending towards most yokai don't exist. And that's a boring take to me. I much prefer they're real and they're everywhere. But they just assume so much knowledge that it's hard to be like, oh yeah, this represented the period in a way that's interesting. Even if we put away all the trick weapons and goofy stuff. It's just like, huh? What, huh? What am I supposed to do here? Honestly, the game's a better Heian period game than it is a Sengoku Jidai game. Or at least it's a better Heian period as remembered in the 14th century game. Look, I could get way too deep in the weeds here. Let's not do that. Let's maybe just not get too deep in the weeds. And instead, let's move on. Danger in Pompeii. Now, this is an interesting one because I was given the key to this. The developers of the game actually did reach out to me, and said, "Hey, could we take a look at it?" I was hanging out in chat, so there is that disclosure aside. I think this was a game that had a lot of value. Unlike most of the games in this list, this is primarily an educational game that then happens to have a mass market release, right? So this has a very specific target audience of school children, and it's written to a level of school children, and that meant that there was some sort of general Roman, early imperial Rome education that was happening that felt very not specific to Pompeii itself. However, it was also, in many cases, very specifically grounded in the excavated archaeology of Pompeii. And the moment it went, it is a professional game studio in Switzerland that made it. It's not a student project, but it is developed in consultation with school groups, and kind of made. Literally, there was a couple of I think it was middle schools in Switzerland that actually did playtesting and helped with it. It's lots of fun. Some of the puzzles are quite well thought through and represent a lot of folks from around the Roman Empire, and so. Yeah, it is, we beat it in 3 hours. Super short, super easy, but when it's at its best, right, and it's really grounding itself in the actual archaeology of Pompeii, the game works really darn well. I wish we had a little bit more, but since the protagonists are children, it's when I say a little bit more, I mean, really, the thought process that led the Plinies one of them to fully get themselves killed, and the other one to nearly get himself killed, by being stoic and Roman and, not letting themselves be shaken by the end of the world. So, exactly, right? Sounds like something you would have loved at that age. Absolutely something I would have loved at that age too. And I think we need games that target that. And this is a really good addition to that list. And I am very happy it's around. Next up, we have made it all the way to August. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. So, hear me out, guys. Khrushchev and Johnson are named characters who are important to the plot of this game. How could it not be a historical game? Hi, Chanty. How you doing, friend? We are taking a look at everything I played over the last year, plus some bonuses, and it's fun to get to look back and try to recall my thoughts about some of these games. Right now we're doing it as, how are they as history games? Yeah. So Chanty, Patreon, you can force me to play games. And one of my mods, Raptora, said, hey, I'm going to do it to you. I was like, please don't do it to me. And he was like, what if I did it to you? And said, hey, Sonic and the Black Knight. I was like, oh. I have not played that. Right. It certainly is a video game. I will look that up later. Yoink. I am putting that in a note to look up later. Thank you, Applefred. But yeah. There's obviously a lot of Metal Gear Solid that is, or Snake Eater that is... Did you know Hideo Kojima likes movies? Incredible. Incredible. As certifiably not a Sonic fan, I'm hard-pressed to say that this is a good game, much less a good Sonic game. But also it had some wildly deep cuts. And that was fun to see. The motion controls were not... it's the motion controls and also the fact that blocking, a thing that you are required to do repeatedly in the game, completely stops your momentum. But yeah, right? MGS3 Snake Eater, I mean, is one of the greatest video games of all time, with good reason. And the remake was just, hey, let's do it, but again. And I love that. A lot of the historical value is obviously not in the geography, in that it feels like it got moved into Russia quite late in development. And it was originally way farther south. Like, it feels like it was originally set in, Vietnam. And then they realized maybe that was a bit too on the nose. But it is a really, really nuanced look at, first, on the one hand, Bond movie tropes, and a really substantial deconstruction slash love letter to them. And on the other hand, Cold War propaganda and the way that archives are used to construct meaning. Right? It did both of these things. And it did both of these things really quite well. And so there is genuinely a lot to love. One thing I particularly loved is that some of the things that look goofy are actual historical things, because there was a lot of, in the technological arms race of the early 1960s, a lot of really goofy shit got developed. Right? There's just a lot of incredibly goofy things that were created IRL, and Kojima brought those in to the original MGS3 and used that as a foundation to justify the development of the proto Metal Gear, right? In that the development to a mobile nuclear launch turret is a pretty logical progression from some of the stealth bombers and enhanced ICBMs and spy stuff that they were actually doing in the period. And that's really cool, right? That actually worked really effectively. And I think it's super valuable. And the handheld nuclear, they're like, yeah, shush. There is a lot of goofiness. The idea that the boss just, like, single-handedly won World War II, objectively so silly. But, that is okay. That is absolutely okay. I had a lovely time with it. And I think it can absolutely justify itself as a game that you can actually pull history from, right? The original reason I wanted to play this on the channel is actually, some years ago, MGS2 and MGS3 got pulled from store shelves because the archival footage license that they used for some of the video clips of JFK in the game expired. And so it's a case where literally real-world historical archival licensing affected the creation and ability to distribute entertainment products. And as someone whose one of my master's degrees is in archives, well, it's in cultural heritage studies more generally, but I was at a program that specialized in archival management. And so it was like, ooh, we literally talked about it in class. And it was like, ooh, I really want to play that. I really want to explore that and see how are they actually using the real world archival footage as a way to ground their narrative. And so I'm glad we did. I've had a great time with it. Next up, Sword of the Sea. Okay, yeah, if I'm honest, it's really hard pressed to justify this as a historical game in any substantive way. Because there's just kind of vague terracotta soldier versus mummies aesthetic in the background plot of the game. But really, this is just a chance to listen to Austin Wintory tunes while playing a giant Squid Game and enjoying the pure vibes that everything's happening there. It was so fun and so lovely, and I had a great time with it. That being said, you know, our cool Sur sword, Bronze Age Chinese sword, real one. We found it. So it's not like there's not historical references in there, but it's like some of these other ones, we have to work so hard to find the things to talk about. That it's hard to justify it anywhere else. Personal question: are you looking like right there and right there? It's not gray. It's just has always come in extremely pale blonde. There's no dye, because it's completely natural. It's just, yeah, there's a little spot that comes in almost colorless. And there's nothing I can do about it. Uh-huh. What a great song. Alright, next up. Actually, is Indiana Jones. This was actually a little bit earlier in the year, but we're gonna do it now. So we played The Great Circle in December and January. And those VODs are now all up on YouTube, so if you're watching the VOD over there, you'll have all of the VODs there. Apologies that it's super crunchy. That was before I upgraded my graphics card, and so I had to play it at 30 frames per second. But seriously, Great Circle, the main story of Great Circle, as with all truly great Indiana Jones stories, exists purely to justify going to cool places and seeing cool stuff. It is the most threadbare looking plot that doesn't stand to any scrutiny whatsoever, and I don't care. The big success of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the stupid quantity of real-world material culture that was brought in. Like, it has the highest density of real-world stuff per video game level I have ever seen. And it's not close. It's genuinely an enormous quantity of material culture. And for all of their paintings and one sculpture, they actually cited where they licensed the material from. It was awesome. Also, that museum section in the beginning. Mwah. Magnificent. The Order of the Giants is basically just that, but more. Right, we got to see a different part of Rome, and I was like, hey, guys, okay, we're going into Rome. I hope that now that we're not inside the Vatican, that we're seeing more pushback to the fascists, and we're seeing a lot more kind of resistance propaganda. We pop out of the sewer, we look to the left, and there is a resistance poster, resistance little graffiti scribble on the wall immediately. I was like, I can't beat it. I simply cannot beat this game. The game is too good. It knows what I want. It's committed to its ethics, and I adore it. We also got to bust out my extremely rusty Latin, which is always a real treat. So, like, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was great. Order of the Giants was equally great. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Had a lovely time. Also, the museum section at the beginning of Great Circle. Yes. Genuinely perfect. Look, the amount of I understand it was probably atrocious content to try and read every label in that museum. I refuse to apologize for my actions. That's why we come here, dude. You got me there. I appreciate that we are united in our collective stance of nerd. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten the little detail that they didn't know about plate tectonics yet, and they specifically mentioned that they don't know about plate tectonics yet in how they write the labels. And it's like, that is awesome. Writing a fake museum, displaying it in the correct way for a museum in 1937, and then actually writing the labels to accurately reflect the language and the state of knowledge of academia in 1937 is so freaking... That's a level of detail that there's like 0.5% of players would ever notice. And I appreciate Machine Games so much for doing it. And yeah. Alright. Then, Silksong. So, yeah, famous historical game about the Great Bug Empire. Yes. But, we played Hollow Knight on the channel, and Hollow Knight was actually a really useful one to basically use archaeological methods and historical methods to walk through and look at that fictional world. Like, actually remains one of the better performing playthroughs on the channel. And one I had an absolutely lovely time with. Hollow Knight is one of my favorite games ever. Silksong is a worse game than Hollow Knight. Right? So, overall, Silksong had a lot of things that still were very good. But... yeah, I found there was a lot less to talk about, and a lot of the things that seemed really interesting in the marrow just proved to not actually have any sauce to them. Oh, kind of aware of the YouTube, but not you as a person. What was your target period in history? Oh, fair point. It's been a long time since I've done an actual, like, full-on breakdown, or thing of myself. So I have a bachelor's degree in medieval studies and linguistics, and 2 master's degrees. One in Viking studies, and one in cultural heritage studies. These days, I actively work as a museum curator, but have previously worked in rare books libraries as well. Additionally, I have several publications in academic sources, journals, and books on the adaptation of games and history, especially regarding the Vikings. So, that's me. These days, I have to do a lot of 20th century stuff, which is a very odd experience for me, who was in solidly the camp of I'll do anything up to the 15th century if I have to, but then get me out of here. Yeah, I do recommend the Valhalla playthrough as a way to get to know me and my pain and suffering. Uh, Oop, guys, I forgot one. Hey guys, do you remember a little game called Ginger? And so many friends suffer with me. I appreciate that I have friends who are very tolerant of me inflicting great pain upon them. Do y'all remember that little game called Ginger? Does anyone Heck yeah. Yours is pre-Islamic Persia and its religious field? See, that's pretty darn cool. I do... I guess... When you say pre-Islamic Persia, Sasanian, Achaemenid, or are we looking even farther back? I guess if you're saying early Christianity, you're Sasanian, but hey, you could get spicy with it. You could try and insist on Central Asian Buddhist states in the Achaemenid period. Uh, cool. Roman Persian Wars, cool. Yeah. So Sassanid Persia into the Islamic expansion. Nice. That's awesome. Okay. Uh. So anyway, yeah. Ginger. Really odd game. Really had a lovely time with it, but this game was basically, hey, we know nothing, start sounding out words until we try and make stuff happen, right? So there is apparently a story. I still don't know what it was, but we're trying to piece together everything about the game, purely from here is a dictionary, and the controls are just you making weird mouth sounds. And it was super duper relaxing and super duper chill, and I enjoyed it immensely. And also, I don't still have literally no idea what's going on. The experience of this game was basically, I feel like I'm so close to connecting it, and then realizing I haven't connected anything. And so I could possibly tell you if there's actually something historical, but I have a linguistics degree as well. Like, I double majored, so, like, you. Getting to flex that was fun, and it was super chill to just hang out and go, like, what's happening? Next up, as you can tell from the soundtrack, sorry, YouTube. Hades 2. Hades 2 ruled. Like, Hades 2 is too big for me. So I like Hades 1, I am probably never going to actually finish that game. Because 1, I am bad at roguelikes, and 2, it is so big, and there is so much content, that it's overwhelming. But, that doesn't make it rule any less. I do think, mechanically, Hades 2 is an improvement of Hades 1. As a history game, Hades 2 is actually worse than Hades 1. The improved scope of this mythic world And the different sets of stories they're bringing in, instead of being heavily Orpheus, it's heavily Odysseus. Instead of being the Diodorus Siculus's account of the abduction of Persephone, it's the Odyssey. So yeah, there's a lot. But Hades 2, I think, kind of fumbles itself a little bit with how heavily it leans into Wicca and vaguely spooky moon witchcraft as like a thing with actual power, because down to literally scenes where we are going, oh yes, the purpose of witchcraft is self-improvement. This is Wicca all the way down, which means it's all 20th century appropriations of Greek myth all the way down. That isn't inherently a bad thing. It's a thing that's worth knowing, and it means a lot of the characterizations end up slightly contorting themselves to fit into that. It's not terrible, and it clearly works. There's an aesthetic, right? The vibe holds together phenomenally. But that is, and I don't think, well, maybe that is a big enough flaw, right? Where if Assassin's Creed Shadows is at the very, very bottom of Fantastic, Hades 2 is at the very top of, hang on, there's some serious flaws here, right? These two are actually very similar in rankings, we just have to draw a line somewhere. But, right, Athelfrith, I mean, for the purpose of this, what we'd be really interested in is how well are they representing divinity? How well are they adapting Greek mythology into these new stories? How consistent are their characterizations of the figures they've chosen with our mythological sources from ancient Greece and, to some extent, Roman sources? You can't escape Ovid, so don't even try. And yeah, how well are they kind of stringing that all together to say something interesting about what makes these gods relevant? Now, these gods all kind of don't care about humanity at all, and Hades 2 of having an overworld, like having a surface section with theoretically living humans or formerly living humans, actually is like the gods seem really unconcerned about humanity in a way that doesn't jive great with a lot of the rest of their characterization, and with the supposed temporal setting of the game. So it's got some issues, and I think overall, I think the big problem I have with it is that the scope kind of just got too big. You say compilations such as the Hesiod is like our second oldest source. Like, Hesiod is old. Hesiod is old, 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 old. He's like Homer old. Okay, he's not quite Homer old, but he's like really damn close. So the Theogony, it's funny that you pulled the Theogony or even way like earlier compilations, because there is no earlier compilation. We start off real strong. All right. Still, Hades 2 was fun. I enjoyed my time with it. Everyone else seemed to enjoy our time with it, so I'm glad we played it. Next up, Strange Antiquities. Strange Antiquities was a real treat. And I'm going to put it in Hear Me Out because even though none of the stuff in there was historical in any substantive way, there were a handful of deep cuts, Carnunos, I see you, Kernanos. Where did you come from? Why are you here? But the thing I really appreciated about it is its heavy focus on identifying things through physical and material description. Right? This is a really, really, really important skill if you're working in historical or archaeological work. You gotta be able to accurately identify and describe our materials, our components, our designs without making presumptions, and then use that to work from form to function. And working in it with a bunch of, spooky, deathly kind of cursed stuff, it's a really, really good format to train someone in that skill. And I think that's, genuinely super valuable. We're coming right up on the end, though. So, drumroll please, our one and only Pentiment tier game. Does anyone have a dispute with me putting Seance of Blake Manor as, the history game of the year? Nope. Fabulous. You wanna play it so bad? Yeah, we are not even close to done with it. We are halfway through the game. But, I've been taking my time with it because we are, working with my good friends, Emmett and Arcanist, and both of whom specialize in, Irish heroic literature / mythology. Scare quotes because they have so many things to say about it. And the history of late 19th and early 20th century occultism. And I'm just also here. Is it vibes or is it really dense with historical context and content? It is so dense. No, it is a cosmology pileup. But that is because, almost every tradition that they are referencing, and they are referencing a lot of them, is a real tradition that had specific things going on in the late 19th century that they have really only fumbled once. And it's with which tarot deck they're using. That is the extent of the fumble in terms of how accurate are we being to occultism in the late 19th century. Is that the biggest nitpick I think we've landed on is that they're using the wrong tarot deck. It's great. It's brilliant. There's so much to like. And so yeah, we'll be picking that back up in 2026. We're looking, hopefully, not next weekend, the weekend after, that we'll be back with more of it. So stay very excited for it. But easily my historical game of the year. Next up, Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is a really great game. This game can win Pentiment tier 2 years in a row. This is the way. Ghost of Tsushima, I don't think it's a very good way to learn about the Mongol invasions of Japan in the 1270s and 1280s. But it is a game that undoubtedly succeeds at everything it's trying to do. It's just, not particularly trying to be accurate. It's trying to do Kurosawa films, and it doesn't super succeed at that either. But there's a lot to like. In the gameplay, in how things are designed, in a lot of the storytelling, and what they're meditating on with, maybe war is bad, or alternatively, maybe we can make them worse. Even the DLC, with its, even though that's not how, Mongolian shamanism works, they really wanted to just do therapy, and they used, Spooky Magic Shaman Lady as an excuse to kind of force Jin to go to therapy. And that is fine and good. The Seance of Blake Manor, Athelfrith. It is a mystery game set in 1897? 1890s in Western Ireland. The worst human being on the planet got mysteriously disappeared, and we reluctantly must figure out who did it and how. Reluctantly. And then lastly, Once Upon a Katamari, which we are about to play in just a little while. Hear me out. Yeah, it's extremely lighthearted, extremely goofy. On the other hand, the game really loves the 18th century. The game really loves the 18th century. And, you know, I think that's fine. I think that's good. I'm not bothered by that. It does say how much of our, like, what time periods are famous to us. Oh, we got pirates. Oh, we got the Wild West. Oh, we got Edo Japan. And it's like, yeah, you know, that's fair. Those are all at the same time. Not quite, but, like, they're not that far off at the same time, too, either. And so we just don't, think about that too much. Don't worry about it too much. But now we've jumped back to ancient Greece. And we also had prehistory, which they called the Jurassic because Jurassic Park. But also had a low poly Anomalocaris. And they had so many little prehistoric guys. And I love them all very much. Right, the actual historical value here is that there's a lot of material that's just around in the world. And so it's a good way to just kind of get a quick glimpse of what is the aesthetic material culture of a time period like. And, in turn, ask us to reflect back on what conceptions do we have about a time period, right? And how do we portray things in ways that can, really reinforce those? And is there room to challenge them? And then you roll it all up into a big giant ball. And it's great. And you just get to bounce around to good tunes while rolling up the world into a big giant ball. It's flawless. I have no notes. I love it very much. So, that leaves the only game down here is Ghost of Yote. Which I'm put in here because it is the game that I am most... of the historical games that came out this year that I did not play, this is the one I am most excited for. I am really curious to see what they're doing here. I will be really excited because we can finally talk about the Ainu and, you know, what's going on in Japan outside of the Empire of Japan. And so we're going to be getting to this pretty darn soon. We have just one PowerPoint we got to get through to bridge the gap from the Kamakura period into the Sengoku Jidai, and then we can hit the ground running back with Ghost of Tsushima, and then Fate. Math, I see you. And then we'll make it happen. So, this is the how good are they as history games? I'm just going to really quick go through how are they as games. Right. I'm gonna spicy take. Silksong's merely fine. There's a lot of really, really, really great games this year. Like, genuinely. genuinely, of the things we played this year, there were so many phenomenal games, and games that I had such a lovely time sharing with you all. There were some games, plenty of games that I thought were good, but I had frustrations with, or games that, were extremely highly hyped that I actually thought, at the end of the day, were kind of overtuned and whiffed. But nothing that I really had a bad time playing. There are sometimes games that I have a really bad time playing. This wasn't one of them. There's also a ton of games that I am super excited for in 2026. Hopefully, what was it? The Killing Stone? Yeah, the Killing Stone. Hopefully, that comes out in 2026. Cause, please? Please? Oh yeah, there's also new Age of Empires 2 expansions. There's new Age of Mythology expansions. There's lots of stuff to be excited for. But right, of the demos we've played, because we do check out demos every time they come around. But remember there was that demo for that 17th century folk horror where Liam O'Brien voiced Satan, called The Killing Stone, and it was all written in period English. Yeah, I'm super excited. It looked at me. It said, "Hey, you're gonna love this." I was like, "Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will. Thanks." I understand there was a demand, not a question, but I would have said yes anyway. So, as you can see, there's actually quite a few differences between what I thought were great history games and what I thought were just great games. So, that's good. That's good. Man, what a year it's been, huh? I think we played fewer games this go around than we have in some of our other years, but I have had less time to stream than I have in other years. Certainly, work is certainly far more stable. Unfortunately, I was traveling a lot last year, and I will be traveling a lot the first half of 2026, which does affect our ability to do stuff. But we will do our best to maintain regular streams all through there, and make sure that we are getting everything up and going. So, if you are on YouTube, I am going to bring down the stream now and start up a new stream for Once Upon a Katamari. If you are on Twitch, though, we are merely going to roll into some snail break to stand up, stretch, get refills on water, and then we will get set up for some chill Katamari time. Because we have a lot more of the world to roll up. We have so much more world to roll up. And, well, it's not going to do itself. So, thank y'all for tuning in over at YouTube. We will see you all later. If you disagree with my tier list, though, do leave a comment. And feel free to yell at me. Or if I missed history games, if there were things that came out this year that you were like, how dare I didn't play this? Let me know, because, well, I do my best. I accept that there is a microscopic chance that I may have missed something. It's very small, but I believe in us. So, YouTube, we'll see you over in the other stream. Twitch, don't go anywhere. We'll be, right back after these snails.